Hey there, fellow travelers, Mark here with Wolters World, and today we're here in Turku, Finland, and today we're going to talk about is how you're going to get from the airport to the city. Because when you're traveling, one of the biggest headaches, one of the biggest worries you have is when you get there with your luggage and trying to figure out, how do I get to my hotel? Like, am I going to get robbed? Can I do the bus? And is there a metro that goes there? I don't know what to do. And so what I want to do is kind of give you an overall idea of what you can do, because honestly, it all kind of comes down to the same thing. I mean, depending on the size of the city, you'll have a train, a bus, a taxi, a rideshare, or a shuttle service from hotels. Like, there's those 5 main things you're going to see. And I think what you really want to start off with when you're thinking about what to use to get from the airport to your hotel is first ask your hotel, what's the best way for you to get there? And the thing is they may say, oh, you can just take train number 6, or you can take bus number 52 and it'll drop you off right at our hotel. Sometimes it's that simple. Other times they may say it depends what time of day you're going to come in. Or they might say, oh, we can arrange a driver for you. Or that's when they'll tell you, we have a shuttle. But that's one thing I always do first, say, hey, what's the best way to get to your hotel from the train station or the airport or the ferry port, because there's a ferry port right down here. Because it could be different where you're going to come in. So ask them. Now, if you're looking for the cheapest option to get into town, obviously public transportation will pretty much always be the cheapest way, unless your cousin lives there and is going to pick you up, okay? But then you got to take them out to dinner, so that makes it more expensive. So maybe just take the bus. And the thing is, when you're looking at taking buses, they usually go the most often of all the transportation options in terms of public transportation. And the thing is, usually what you have to plan for is if you're going to take a bus to or from the airport, those buses will cost more than a normal bus, because it might be an express airport bus or the airport's far out of town, so you have to pay more. So when you're buying your tickets, your bus tickets, make sure it goes to the airport if you're going to go out to the airport, or make sure you have enough tickets so you're going to get into the center. Because sometimes you can take a public transportation and then they check like, oh, you only went for 2 zones and now you're in 3 zones, so you need to pay more. And I have seen people get fines for that, okay? Now, if you're going to take the bus, usually what it is you'll buy the ticket from the driver, or there might be a stand that sells the ticket for the buses, and then you buy your ticket and they'll tell you where to go. And if they're bigger buses, you're not going to bring your luggage up into the bus. They're going to put it underneath the bus, and then when you get to the train station or the bus station or wherever they drop off is, then they'll take your stuff out and you get it there. That's why it's important you tell them where you're going to get off when you're taking the bus, if it's a dedicated airport bus, okay? Now, if it's just normal public transportation, then yes, you will actually have your luggage with you on a normal bus. But that's why I usually recommend taking those kind of airport express buses versus the normal bus. And you'll notice that those airport express buses really say like airport express or airport only. And so therefore it's set up for, travelers with suitcases. Whereas if you take like bus 58 or bus 497, those are actually local commuter buses, so people are going to work on those, so there's usually not a lot of room for your luggage, so be aware for that, okay? Because your luggage is really going to dictate a lot in terms of what you can do when it comes to getting around, because the next option you have are trains. And now if you're in, for example, in Helsinki, you fly to Helsinki, there's trains like every half hour that come into town, 42 minutes, very easy, got a lot of luggage, roll it on there, boom, you're good to go, all right? Now, the thing is, though, with the trains, they usually are a little bit more than the buses. They're not as often as the buses, and they only go one route. They go usually to the main train station, okay? So if you're not staying at the main train station, you might then have to get a taxi or a subway or a bus to get to your next destination. So you might want to factor that into your pricing when you're looking at these things. Also, if you've got multiple people, all of a sudden that 10 euro, train ride, and you got 4 people, all of a sudden that's 40 euros. Well, heck, if I'm coming from Helsinki airport, it's only 35 euros for a taxi. I might as well have my family of 4 in the taxi instead of the train. And so you want to kind of add up those prices, okay, and kind of compare things. Now, I said taxi and rideshare. That is going to be an option as well. If you're coming in late night, like after midnight into most airports in Europe, sometimes it's hard to get the train. There might not be a train or a lot of public transportation options late night. So be careful if you're using like cheaper airlines, or you have a red-eye flight that gets in late, because you might only be able to take a taxi or an Uber from the airport, and that's going to be a lot more expensive. And honestly, taxis are usually the most expensive option, but they take you from point to point. So if you don't want to deal with that, or if you have a lot of luggage, I do recommend doing the taxi, because or a van that will take you there, because then you don't have to worry about dealing with all your luggage, okay? Now, also when you're at the airport, I will tell you, you got to realize this, a lot of airports now, they'll have a designated place for taxis, and then they'll have a designated designated place for ride shares like Ubers or Lyfts, okay? And every country has different stuff. Like Uber is pretty ubiquitous, but other countries have different things. So you want to check and see what's there, okay? And the thing is sometimes you really want the super convenience. I know sometimes when we're coming into places like going into Cancun, I know that's not here in Europe, but you know, going into London or going into Paris, we'll actually have a driver pick us up and they'll have the Wolters sign waiting for it, Wolters family, and we find them right there. Because what you'll see when you get to some airports, like in Amsterdam or in Paris, you'll see at the arrival center, there'll be guys asking you, oh, do you need a taxi? Do you need a taxi? And you're like, no, I'll go to the actual taxi stand. This is important. Go to the actual taxi stand and wait in line, because then it's less likely you're going to get ripped off, okay? Because the people that are just up there asking, you've got no recourse, okay? So go to the actual taxi line for those people, okay? Not the guy that's like, hey, come with me. No, no, no. And don't let people just take your luggage and say, we're going to take you to the car. There has been many times those luggage were never given back, or it was not a good ride, okay? So be careful with that when you're at the airport getting to the taxis. But that's why sometimes you might just hire a driver to come pick you up. And that's why I always say is if your hotel has a driver, that might be something to talk about. Do you know a company that will do that and they have a relationship? Sometimes it means you get a better deal. I know in Paris, my family and I use the same company to book our apartments, and they have a shuttle service they use, and so we've used them for literally 15 years, and it's been a fantastic relationship. And that's the thing. If you get a good taxi driver or a good Uber driver or a good private driver from the airport, you might want to talk to them and say, hey, could I get your number if I want to hire you to take me back to the airport? Because here's the thing. They know where you're, where they dropped you off. They know where to come back and get you. And you already have that relationship, so you feel a little bit more comfortable with that driver. And we've actually done it. We've actually hired drivers for the day because they were such good drivers bringing us from the airport. So that is something you can kind of consider when you're thinking about coming from the airport, all right? So I know this was kind of a rambling, talky kind of thing, but I think it's important for you to kind of think about your options for how you're going to get from the airport to your hotel when you get into a city, especially from the airport, because it's going to be the most expensive taxi you're going to have, I'm going to guess, in most destinations. So I wanted you to be ready for that, and do have this kind of set up and know what you're going to do beforehand, because you don't want to get to the destination and be like, okay, how do we get to the city center? Because sometimes you find out that the only thing there is a 100-kilometer bus ride, which has happened to me before in Sweden. So anyway, I wish you all the best and have a great time, and I'll say bye from here in Turku, Finland.